Welcome to Smash Fiction, where we pit two or more fictional characters against each other in a battle of strength, or wits, or a deep and abiding love for the band ABBA, and I defy you to find anything in the original source material for either character that contradicts that. And see who would win. This week, Wander versus Cthulhu. The boy, known only as Wander, slowly picks himself up from the cold stone floor of the Temple of Dormin. His skin may be paler than it was when he first came to the Forbidden Lands, his hair may have turned from brown to black, and he may be feeling some small nubs beginning to protrude from his temples, but a grim, inexhaustible hope fills his chest. He has killed 15 of the deadly ancient colossi of these lands, meaning he only has one more to go before the ancient god Dormin will restore Mono to life. "Thou hast done well," Dormin says. "Truly, thou art a worthy wielder of the ancient sword. We have not forgotten our promise to thou either. Once 2 more colossi are slain, the innocent girl's soul shall be returned to her body, and she shall live again." "I'm sorry, did you say 2 more colossi?" Wander asks, bewildered. "But you said that once all the idols were destroyed, you would hold up your end of the bargain. I've destroyed 15 of them. Only 1 idol remains." Wander turns to gesture at the hall behind him, which up until his arrival had been full of towering stone effigies of shadowy beasts, but which now only contains 1 such statue. Or does it? Wander double takes at the spot of bright green sitting on the floor across from the final intact idol. He walks over to inspect it and sees that it is a child's toy, a small chubby green plush doll of a tentacle-faced bat-winged creature. Wander turns his gaze up toward the ceiling of the shrine. "What is this?" he demands. "This wasn't here the last time I came by, and you said there would only be 16 colossi." "Well," Dormin says reluctantly, "thou didn't really kill that one colossus, remember? Thou arrived and it was lying dead, with those weird bat-shaped boomerangs sticking out of it, and the words 'Doom was here' scrawled into its forehead."
Doom!
Thou must admit, that didn't really count. And anyway, there's this whole thing where the stars are right, and there's this great old jerk that we didn't really anticipate, and if he ends up making landfall, then it's gonna be really messy for everyone, including thou and thine girlfriend. What dost thou say? Be thou a pal? Wander looks back at the tiny green plushie on the ground and sighs. Fine, how hard could it possibly be? The stage is set. Wander, with his trusty magical sword and his trustier horse Agro, arrives on the rocky shores of the newly risen island of Relay. But Cyclopean spires and non-Euclidean angles are the least of Wander's worries, because deep within the caverns of the island stirs great Cthulhu, a creature of such age, power, and alien malevolence that to simply attempt to pronounce his name is enough to drive you mad. Wander has put 15 colossal notches on his belt so far, but has he killed enough lizards and eaten enough fruit to take down the squamous namesake of an entire mythos? This was written of in the fevered scrawlings of the mad Arab Abdul al-Hazred, and it was prophesied that I, Dan Mulcairn, would be both blessed and cursed to bear witness to this event. Advocating for Wander are Liz Logan.
The one time I'm not excited for tentacles.
And Colin Mulcairn.
That is not dead which can eternal lie. Like Miles, he lies. And Kit, she lies too. Just listen to their opening arguments, you'll see what I mean.
Advocating for Cthulhu are Miles Schneiderman.
Finglui Muglwanafa Cthulhu Rie Waganagal fhtagn douchebags.
And Kit Mulcairn.
The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. Colin and Liz live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that they should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed them little. But today, the piecing together of disassociated bullshit will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of their frightful position therein, that they shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. Get wrecked.
I really opened up a can of worms with that whole Sarah Connor thing I did a few episodes ago.
Yep.
In order to determine who goes first this week, I enrolled the advocates in a high-stakes Las Vegas poker tournament. Team Wander quickly took the lead, proving to have an indomitable combination of skill, strategy, insight, and luck, and it was clear from the outset that they would be the ones to beat. However, Team Cthulhu said something crazy about chess being a strategically superior game to poker, and decided instead to engage in a daring casino heist, making off with not only the tournament prize money, but also a sweet white tiger. I'm not a fan of cheaters, and I certainly don't believe that chess is strategically superior to poker, but I do love me a good heist, and game recognized game, Team Cthulhu will be going first. Team Cthulhu, Fatan.
Brothers and sisters of the Mongol races, mostly brothers, we are gathered here in this holy place, near the hidden lake where the formless white polypus thing with luminous eyes makes its home unglimpsed by mortal sight, to honor the sacrifice of the one called Wander, whose oddly marred body will surely hang in short order beside these other 9 that form the circle of our ritual. It's clear to me that this poor boy has never attended a Louisiana swamp orgy in his brief, sad lifetime, for if he had, he would already possess the horrible but somehow liberating knowledge that he never had a chance against our master, whose likeness crouches upon the monolith as he crouches upon the world of men, watching over us even as he dreams, waiting to set the earth aflame with a holocaust of ecstasy and freedom. Cthulhu fhtagn! Excuse me. Wander has about as much chance of defeating the great Cthulhu, as a drowning man has of stopping the eternal ebb and flow of the tides. This is not a shambling colossus who attacks as quickly as molasses, and whose primary defense mechanism is to shake itself and hope the wee human falls to his death. This is a cosmic being possessed of an ancient alien intelligence, who can telepathically shatter the minds of mortals all over the world in his sleep, literally. Your Honor, I respect the fact that Wander has made it this far, to the doorstep of Rhea itself, and I would not presume to suggest that the mere sight of Cthulhu would instantly drive him into gibbering insanity, as it has for so many others like him. But we must consider that the merest stirring of Cthulhu in the depths of his watery tomb sends psychic shockwaves across the planet, driving people to madness and suicide. Whatever mental counters against all-encompassing terror Wander possesses, they are not going to be enough. The actual sight of the High Priest of the Great Old Ones will have a profound impact on Wander's ability to think strategically, if at all. And even if just seeing Cthulhu isn't enough to break Wander's brain, remember that Cthulhu, again, is a telepath, and Wander has been definitively shown to be susceptible to this very kind of manipulation from creatures that may or may not be gods. We know that Cthulhu can telepathically communicate with humans so long as deep water is not presenting a thought barrier. We also know he has millennia of experience in manipulating humans, particularly via their dreams. I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that Cthulhu has been fucking with Wander in his dreams for however long it took Wander to get here from the Temple of whatever, and I really don't think it's a stretch to suggest that Cthulhu can't fuck with him more now that they're face to face. Well, face to tentacle. Face to big toe, maybe? Whatever, next to each other. Cthulhu is the high priest of the oldest religion in history. He invented fucking with people's heads. And against this, we have Wander, who is blinded by his determination to resurrect Mono at the expense of all else, who didn't question a single thing about his deal with Dormin and fell right into the trap, who didn't think something might be wrong with this whole thing when fucking horns started growing out of his head, and who ultimately was possessed by an evil spirit. This guy is going to put up a psychic fight against Cthulhu. This guy. I guarantee you, before Wander even finds a single weak point, he will be noticing the strange beauty of Rhea, fascinated by its bizarre geometry. Maybe he'll start thinking about the sorry condition of a world that would put him in this kind of situation, a world that chews up good people like Mono and spits them out, a world where spirits like Dormin have the only answers that matter. Maybe he starts to wonder if Cthulhu is more powerful than Dormin, powerful enough that he can bring Mono back to life? If only Wander submits to his will? Maybe Wander hesitates even for a second, at which point, giant dragon claws! I mean, hell, we know basically nothing about Wander's background, right? Who's to say the father he never knew wasn't a native of a strange port called Innsmouth? Maybe, over the course of this fight, instead of little devil horns, Wander starts noticing that his hands are becoming webbed, that gills are starting to form on the sides of his neck. Yeah, you were hot shit when you were fighting Colossi, Wander, but you're in a Lovecraft story now. Welcome to the family, son.
Even if Wander could survive the psychic assault of seeing Cthulhu and realizing in that moment that Dormin fucked him over, I mean, it smashed fiction. Let's write some fiction, right? If he survived that, let's go over what he faces before him. The nightmare corpse city of R'lyeh, the dread Cthulhu calls home, rises from coastline of mingled mud, ooze, and weedy cyclopean masonry. It is described by the one unfortunate soul who saw it and remembered as being loathsomely redolent of spheres and dimensions apart from ours. This man, a sailor named Johansen, watched as he lost one of his crew to this non-Euclidean architecture. He swears this man, and I quote, was swallowed up by an angle of masonry which shouldn't have been there, an angle which was acute but behaved as if it were obtuse. If Wander is foolish enough to bring his horse aggro, the poor animal will slip on the green slimy ooze that coats everything and undoubtedly break a leg. And that's if aggro even lets Wander drag her into that island of a city. Either way, Wander will be trekking through the nightmare landscape that is R'lyeh, risking life and limb just to find the tomb that holds the Great Dreamer. It is most doubtful that he would even arrive within sight of Cthulhu without being injured by those horrible green angles. Yeah, the stars are right, and dead Cthulhu lives, for in strange eons even death may die.
Yeah!
And in all possible eons, Wander will die.
Yeah!
Holla! The great old one.
Can we do a find and replace of Call of Cthulhu where we replace Ia with Holla?
The great old one will rise and rise and rise, towering higher than any of the colossi this boy has faced. When Johansen recounted what he saw that fateful day, his crew was lost at R'lyeh. In describing Cthulhu, he uses the words, a mountain walked. At the time the Call of Cthulhu was written, a mountain had to be at least 300 meters tall to be considered one. Another man to whom a vision of dread Cthulhu was projected into his dreams described the monster to be miles high. That's miles, as in
What's up?
plural. Yeah, what's up? Even if Cthulhu is just 2 miles high, that puts him at over 3,200 meters tall, well fulfilling the mountain height requirement. Wander simply does not have the stamina to climb this horror. In Shadow of the Colossus, Wander loses stamina as he clings to the colossi, and only letting go and balancing on the creatures gives him the opportunity to recover it. Fortunately for Wander, all the colossi are covered in fur and stone, often with plenty of ledges to grab and stand on. Unfortunately for Wander, dread Cthulhu is described as squamous and rubbery, and because R'lyeh is a slimy place recently risen from the ocean depths, it is not unfathomable that the Great Old One will also be quite slippery. Good luck holding on to what is essentially wet jello. The horribly sad thing is, climbing Cthulhu's great mass is probably something Wander must do in order to find the sigil-esque weak point that his magic sword reveals. The sadder thing is, if the Great Old One does have a weak point, the only spot that could be supported by mythos lore is on his head, as we see in the Call of Cthulhu. Wander is doomed to make attempt after attempt to climb horrible slick geometry and a slimy, writhing mountain just to find a weak point, only to fall to his death. In Shadow of the Colossus, we see Wander needs several precious moments to recover from bad falls, and he is most lucky that the large, tall colossi, the ones he would fall from, are very slow. The larger the Colossus, the slower it moves. This is crucial to the gameplay, as the large colossi could snuff Wander quite quickly if he didn't have a better than normal chance to get out of the way. In the Call of Cthulhu, almost immediately after the Great Old One's great presence is shown, it snatches several hapless sailors in one quick swoop of its massive claws. Wander does not have the advantage of fighting a slow, stupid monster. Also in Shadow of the Colossus, Malice. Or maybe Malus, I would like to imagine it is Nicolas Cage's character, but no.
In the movie, he'll be played by Nicolas Cage.
It does kind of look like the Wicker Man.
I was going to say, he is wearing a mask, too, so you never know.
Is it a bear mask? Okay.
He's pretty furry. Could be a bear suit under that armor and then above that Nicolas Cage.
Doesn't he shoot,
Not the bees!
doesn't he shoot fire, too? Just like what they set fire to the Wicker Man with?
Oh shit, he totally does.
No, it runs deep. Okay. All right.
Oh my god. Okay, this is a new fan theory. Somebody write this up.
All right, Malice, the final Colossus, has hair on its palms, besides indicating that it masturbates a lot. This means Wander can climb into its palm. When this happens, Malice does not use that opportunity to squish Wander. Why? Because the colossi have an intelligence that seems to top out at aggressive animal level. But the final nails in Wander's slimy, non-Euclidean coffin are as such. Unlike the colossi, Cthulhu can regenerate. If by some nonsense Wander manages to hurt the Great Old One, a blinding, acrid green cloud will pour forth from the wound, and if Cthulhu can't shake the blind Wander from its slippery hide, it can bring down its massive clawed hand onto the insignificant mortal. Wander's only chance lies in him getting some damn sense in his head, going back to grab his dead-ass mono, flipping Dormin the bird, and peacing out.
Well done, Team Cthulhu. I've failed my sanity check and am now attempting to eat my own mouth. In the meantime, Team Wander, raise thy sword by the light and head to the place where the bullshit gathers.
Wander, aka the extraordinary death dealer of giants, has experienced just about every variation in giant monster creation. He is proficient in fighting flying giants, burrowing giants, hoof giants, giants with horns, giants with clubs, giant swimming snakes, giant stegosaurus-looking giants, smaller giants that are still giants, tough giants, sissy giants, giants who climb on rocks, and giants that are essentially so big they're a fucking tower on the scale of the Tower of Sauron.
Damn.
Wander has several skills and tools at his disposal. First, his grip strength is off the charts. He can scale nearly anything and is able to balance on extremely bumpy or fast-moving surfaces when he needs to recharge. And by the end of the game, if he has been eating his FDA-recommended allowance of lizards and magic fruits, he pretty much never needs to rest and can take an obscene amount of punishment without losing a step, including falling from heights that should totally kill any normal human. He has incredible determination and is shown to not be fearful, even in the face of pants-shittingly scary monsters. He traveled to a place literally called the Forbidden Lands in order to accomplish his ultimate goal, bringing a mysterious woman back to life. And he has shown, time and again, that he is willing to do anything to accomplish this ultimate goal. If Cthulhu stands in his way, then gods help him, because bigger and scarier monsters have already tried and failed to stop him. He also has a magic sword, which, in addition to being able to slay ancient magical beings like the colossi, is also able to do other cool stuff, like when Eamon uses it to make a glowing vortex which sucks all the evil out of the reincarnated Dormin. Oh, and Wander stole this sword too, from a mysterious order of warrior priests in what we can only assume was an awesome, unseen Assassin's Creed-esque prequel story. Also, he has incredible accuracy with his bow, and a seemingly endless supply of arrows. It's not too hard at all to bullseye Colossus in the eye from horseback. And whereas Colossus' eyes seem to be made of stone, we can assume that Cthulhu's soft, squishy octopus eyes are going to be a whole lot more vulnerable. Wander's best buddy is his horse, Agro. Wander can use Agro to cover ground more quickly or as a vault to pull off crazy acrobatic stunts to get on top of Colossi. Wander is also extremely adept at finding his enemy's weak spots. While his sword can help lead him to a Colossus' location and help him find its vitals, that's just the first step. Wander still has to be incredibly creative in order to figure out how he is going to kill the damn thing. He asks himself, how do I get onto this thing? Can I use my horse? Can I jump off higher ground onto the Colossus? Can I shoot a bunch of arrows at it to lure it over so that it's standing under this ledge and then jump on its head? Can I shoot it on the bottom of the foot in order to make it drop a knee so then I can jump on it? Wander is given hardly any direction in these situations, and then only after he is actually on a Colossus, he has to actually explore the giant's body for a weak point, all while the Colossus is trying to throw him off or kill him using its own limbs or the environment around it. So he has definitely passed advanced level dodging. These colossi can use brute strength, concussive energy blasts, or explosive breath weapons. One of the colossi puts out a field of electricity from its spines that keep Wander from getting too close. One of the flying colossi actually flies upside down while Wander is holding onto its wings and flaps its wings to try to shake him off. Wander has shown that none of these countermeasures can stop him.
Hercules had 12 labors? That's cute. Wander had 16. And we know that he was doing this on a very tight timetable. Halfway through the game, Dormin informs him that a group of riders are approaching quickly and he has to hurry to complete the ritual before they arrive. In a matter of days at most, he has completely wiped out centuries of careful planning for the imprisonment of an extremely powerful entity. Because we never see the sun go down once, it's possible that Wander kills all 16 colossi in a single day. No Lovecraftian protagonist has ever had to deal with getting his body penetrated by enormous dark tentacles from all sides 16 times in a row.
Whoa. Family-friendly podcast.
All right.
Is it?
When confronted with Cthulhu, Wander will have already had experience dealing with and making deals with demonic beings, and harboring their very life force after killing them. Not to mention, Cthulhu is way too busy running its campaign for US president in 2016. Whether planning to continue to increase global temperatures or deregulate everything, Cthulhu has a lot on its tentacles, one of which will be Wander, climbing a tentacle and stabbing Cthulhu in the face.
So before we go any further, let's take a look at what Cthulhu is actually shown accomplishing in Call of Cthulhu. He spends most of the story asleep, wakes up, gets stabbed by a boat, and then goes back to sleep. But thankfully for Team Cthulhu, our match today isn't Cthulhu versus a boat, it's Cthulhu versus Wander. Oh, did I say thankfully? I meant the opposite of that. Because whereas everyone in Call of Cthulhu has trouble even conceiving of the idea that something like Cthulhu could exist, Wander has already killed 15 members of his extended family and lived to tell the tale. So how would Wander go about actually killing Cthulhu? Well, you see, Cthulhu is kind of like a combination of a few different colossi that Wander has already faced. He's kind of like Argus in that he is intelligent, at least intelligent enough to wield tools, and he inhabits a big ancient city. When fighting him, Wander shows that he's able to navigate the city better than his attacker and lead him around and goad him into attacking the environment in ways that would reshape it into his advantage. He's also kind of like Barba in that he has a big beard, except made of tentacles rather than hair. Wander has shown that he's super good at climbing beards, and he would climb those tentacles like, this is a space for a joke, Colin. Remember to write a joke in here. He's kind of like Avion, the flyer, and as Liz mentioned, Wander has already shown that he's able to hold on to a flying monster no matter how many times he has hit Z or R twice to do a barrel roll. I have this bit here about Avion's ability to pitch and yaw and roll. Nope. Do you guys want to hear that?
No!
All right. So anyway, he's also kind of like Malice, the big muscly wizard thing that you fight at the end of the game during a rainstorm. Malice actually reminds me of my old high school PE teacher who, no joke, was so buff that he couldn't touch his own shoulders or back at all.
Wow. Oh, no.
Just like Malice, who has plenty of spots on his body that he is unable to reach. And well, not to body shame a great old one, but Cthulhu's a pretty stocky fella. I'm sure he's not able to see his own feet in the shower or able to clean himself in all those hard-to-reach places.
I can't get behind this. I can't get behind this. Is too much, man. That's offensive. That's offensive.
Oh, sorry. Well, anyway, while those spots may be smelly, they're also going to make for excellent hiding places for our resident giant slayer. Cthulhu is a super cool baddie in the relatively mundane and low-powered setting of the Lovecraftian mythos, but compared to a mythic hero from an epic fantasy setting like Shadow of the Colossus, he's just another monster. One of the most iconic lines from Call of Cthulhu describes when the narrator sees Cthulhu moving. He says, "A mountain walked." Compare that to the tagline on the Shadow of the Colossus game box, which reads, "Some mountains are scaled, others are slain." And actually, the full version of that Lovecraft quote is, "A mountain walked or stumbled." In this case, let's be clear, he stumbled, because Cthulhu just got shanked in the ankle, and he is going down hard.
His ankle's like 50 feet above you, just so you know.
I'll get to
a
that.
ladder, son. A non-Euclidean one.
Well, that was a masterfully understated, beautifully simple, engrossing ride that was as palpitatingly thrilling as it was serenely calming. No, wait, that was Eurogamer's review of Shadow of the Colossus. What were we talking about?
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
Anyway, rebuttals. You know them. You love them. Team Cthulhu. Get to them.
Okay, so Wander can survive high falls, I will say that, like higher than the average person, because video games. But he really can't take that many hits. That's why when he fights the fast colossi, or even the really big ones, it's just easier with the big ones, he has to be super careful to stay out of their way. So you make it sound like he can take a bunch of hits, but not from fucking monsters. Not really. Also, Cthulhu's eyes, I'm pretty sure, are never actually described. That's why he's drawn with like anywhere between 2 to a fuck ton of them. But whatever, he has regeneration, even if you did poke him in an eye with an arrow.
Yeah, when the boat goes through his head, the guy looks back and the head is reforming.
Yeah, like instantly. Once again, regen.
That's probably a non-magical weapon, though.
He's not a troll, Colin.
Miles, everyone knows that trolls are vulnerable to fire and acid. Magic has nothing to do with it. Let's move on.
Okay, so I'll give you that, Colin. But okay, so you mentioned, Malice, because we're not talking about Nicolas Cage. Malice... he couldn't reach some of the spots on his body, and that's fair. I guess he's a big old stone fur thing. But Tulu's going to have a much easier time with that. He has wings. He has wings, all kinds of tentacles. He can reach all those little spots. He does scrub between the folds, sir.
You've been relying a lot, as one would expect, on the argument that Wander is highly adept at using his environment and the layers of his opponents to his advantage, knowing the layer of Argus better than Argus, for example. As Kit mentioned, he's going to have a much harder time with that because geometry and physics don't work the same way in this city as they do everywhere else. In the Call of Cthulhu, even when the doors open, they're specifically described as opening in a weird diagonal manner that defy anything anyone could even imagine. They say that they can't tell if the doors are horizontal on the ground or like diagonal like a storm cellar, because they can't actually tell if the ground is parallel with the sea. So I'm Wander, guess I'll jump onto this ledge. I don't know if this ledge is parallel to the ground or not, and also it's covered in ooze. He's going to have a really hard time negotiating this terrain, and a near impossible time, I would argue, getting to know this city better than Cthulhu, who has lived there for millennia.
To counter that, in all the fights, he doesn't necessarily need to use his environment, but think about when he actually gets onto a Colossus. You're on a completely autonomous moving thing where 1 second you could be hanging onto him right side up, and the other second it could flip over, start flying off at a 45-degree angle, and he's still holding on and is able to get to whatever weak spot he needs to get. So a crazy environment, Wander's already used to that because he's fighting on crazy environments every time he gets onto a Colossus.
He's not crazy, but like based on the sense of his world. Like Cthulhu and his people are cosmic entities. This is nothing he has even like remotely even thought could exist.
Cosmic related to, you know, the mundane world of the early 20th century, which, you know, non-Euclidean architecture. What are we going to do with that? Dude, like the Guggenheim is non-Euclidean by definition.
Okay. No. When he says non-Euclidean, he is not referring to, what is it, like elliptical and like the other one. There's like two that are, that one. That is just the best word he has for geometry that just does not exist. He is not referring to the like weird roundy ones. Geometry
that is not what you might expect it to be, or that looks weird or has some like different like strange perspectives and stuff like that, is difficult. But as Liz mentioned, geometry which moves and is alive, platforms that can shift and turn upside down. I mean, it's not the exact same thing. Well, this is both. But Relay itself is not going to move.
I mean, it will though. Shadow of the Colossus isn't exactly a high fantasy either. I mean, the most epic high fantasy thing about it is that there's a bunch of walking platformers running around, which is why Wander can just jump from ledge to ledge in a lot of cases. You know, this is not fucking Lord of the Rings.
The tentacles and such.
The angles, no!
And the angles. Team Wander, it's your turn for rebuttals.
It's talked about a lot that, you know, Cthulhu drives people insane, that kind of thing. There's two things I want to touch on that. One, we see that a lot of the people that Cthulhu does interact with aren't driven insane in the sense of that they just are foaming at the mouth and they go crazy. The definition of insanity is it's a state of mind that prevents normal perception, behavior, or social interaction. That's like the dictionary definition of it. And so they didn't have the same words in the early 20th century to talk about these kinds of things. But if we were to put it in present day terms, I think most of the protagonists in Lovecraftian stories have PTSD, if there was a better term for it, because they encountered this giant thing that was beyond their comprehension. It was unlike anything they could think of before because they're not from a place with magic and monsters. I don't think that anything about this is going to be anything that is beyond what Wander could conceive of. I don't really think it's going to mess with his mind at all. And as we've mentioned, he's all full of all sorts of dark magic that's like been eating away at him and like bonding to him. And he seems to be carrying on just fine.
He travels to a place called the Forbidden Lands, a place that's sealed off to his people. It's not like he knew anything that was going on, and he was just confronted with these huge beings that he has to kill while dealing with a demonic entity, while absorbing demonic life force, and still being able to go after each Colossus death to kill the next one.
Spiritual forces are still part of that world. I mean, the fact that he knew there was like a place to go if you wanted to res someone, like means that was a normal aspect. This is fantasy, not sci-fi. Lovecraft is just mind-blowing levels of sci-fi that this fantasy setting is not going to be prepared for.
The Call of Cthulhu makes it clear that when the sailor named Bryden looks back at Cthulhu when he's following their ship, he goes insane immediately, as in he snaps and starts laughing and talking bullshit and gets committed to an asylum when they get back. Most of the others didn't survive. The only other one who did was the guy that wrote the piece. Now, I appreciate what you're saying about the whole definition of insanity and everything, but the fact of the matter is that guy snapped with a glance. And other people around the world who didn't even see Cthulhu, who just were affected by the psychic resonance of his awakening, you know, these are all people who are like artists and poets and dreamers, right? Here's what we know about Wander. We know he's pretty sure he can resurrect Mono if he goes to this temple. So, first of all, he might be an artist. Second of all,
what a
he's
dreamer,
clearly
right?
he's clearly a romantic dreamer who believes this kind of thing is possible. So, the sight of Cthulhu does in fact immediately afflict the people who see it with extreme symptoms of madness, and Wander is specifically susceptible, the kind of personality, the kind of mind that gets cracked by Cthulhu and will be doing the kind of things that other people around the world were doing, like throwing themselves over balconies because they know the end is coming.
Okay,
what I'll say to that is...
First, Wander is shown to be a warrior. He's actually stated to be a warrior of his tribe. And your speculation on the romantic thing, we don't know why he's trying to resurrect her.
He's a romantic in that he believes it is possible, not in that the relationship is a romantic.
Kit was putting forth that it's a normal part of the setting, that it's a thing that's accepted to be normal. So that contradicts what you're saying here. Is it a normal thing or is it a crazy thing?
He believes resurrection is possible. Now, just because there's a spirit and a temple that is a normal part of the setting, that doesn't mean resurrection is possible. It takes a certain kind of personality to believe it can happen and to go to the lengths that Wander does. It takes a dreamer.
You gotta choose. Is it normal or is it crazy? Because you're both saying different
honestly,
things.
it doesn't really matter because Wander is the fruit fly to Cthulhu. Like if we were like Cthulhu's the size of us, Wander would be just the tiniest bug, and he cannot escape. He just cannot escape.
I want to talk about his size. So, all
right, let's body shame. Let's go.
So there's one thing that I want to cite, and you guys can tell me that this is outside of the realm of what we're allowed to talk about. But the Call of Cthulhu RPG states that he's 85 feet tall.
It's out. Yeah.
That's fine.
We specifically said it was Lovecraft and
That's
Derleth
fine.
that we
That's
were
fine.
using.
I just wanted to check
Derleth, man. I don't know. I'm gonna put that guy on notice now.
So I read a Reddit thread in which people were speculating about the height of Cthulhu, and so there's a quote where they say, "The awful squid head with its writhing feelers came up nearly to the bowsprit of the sturdy yacht," which implies that his head is poking out of the water so you can see it, and that it is touching the bow of the ship. And this is like a 1920s commercial steam yacht. And the people who are on this thread figured out that the average distance from waterline to bow of that ship would be about 15 feet, meaning that Cthulhu's head would be about 15 feet tall. And so compared to the rest of his body, Lovecraft actually drew a picture of Cthulhu once. And in this picture, he's about 8 to 10 of his own heads tall, meaning that Cthulhu would be anywhere from 130 feet to 150 feet tall, which is really big, but it's still smaller than the largest colossi that Wander fights, which is Malus, or Malice, or whichever it is, which is 195 feet tall. So he's kind of in the range of kind of like an average size Colossus.
Even if he is much closer to the size of Malice, if Malice was not fixed to this weird architecture thing, if he was walking around, he would have been way beyond what Wander could have handled. The only reason Wander could get as close as he could to Malice was because he was like part of this ancient structure that, Wander had to like dodge some fireballs, weave through, and slowly climb his way up. If Malice was, stomping around like Cthulhu, or like had the ability to fucking fly like Cthulhu, no.
Or fuck with your head telepathically.
Yeah.
I hate to stop you there, but we may have to take this inside. I can hear some distant rumbling, and something tells me we may be in for a lightning round!
Ah!
Yeah!
Doom!
I know this probably goes without saying, but I have an enormous pile of notes that I didn't get to. We can move on. That's fine. I just wanted to...
Let the record state.
We have to fight the bloat.
As did I.
We have to fight the bloat when and where we can. Turns out that distant rumbling wasn't thunder, but a gigantic earthquake. Maybe it was the ferocity of the battle between Wander and Cthulhu, or maybe it was some freak shifting of tectonic plates. But for whatever reason, the island of R'lyeh has been shaken to its very foundation, and has once again sunk beneath the waves. The interior of the island where the two combatants are somehow remains filled with air, but by this point it's become depressingly clear that Wander will never be able to return to the Forbidden Lands, and Cthulhu will never be able to bring about the doom and destruction of the human race. Why do bad things always happen to good people?
Seriously.
Anyway, this sudden bleakness really takes the fight out of the two combatants, and they sit in quiet contemplation of what to do next. The minutes stretch into hours in the sunken halls of R'lyeh as Wander and Cthulhu stare at the moisture slowly running down the walls, and the silence grows increasingly more and more awkward. Then, in an effort to break the ice, Cthulhu remembers something and runs out of the chamber, returning excitedly a few minutes later. Clutched in his claws is a long, flat box, which he opens and begins to set up the board in pieces contained within. While this is happening, Wander glances down at the discarded box top and sees the game is called Clue.
How tiny is this?
Or perhaps Cluedo if Cthulhu got the British version.
Cthulhu has amazing manual dexterity.
It really does.
In other news, Dan's really been going to the game wheel for
Yeah,
his
you know
lightning
what?
rounds recently.
I realized that recently. I've done Rock Band, I've done Smash Brothers, I've done Quidditch. I did all sorts of games.
Fans, we are running out of ideas for lightning rounds. I'm sorry.
Send them in.
Hey, speak for yourself.
Yeah,
You know, we
definitely
just-
speak for yourself.
Oh, Liz, your
Look,
insanity.
we each have our own little bailiwicks, we each have our own areas of expertise. I can't compete with Liz when it comes to madness, so,
All I wanted from you last episode was to tell me the meaning of life. Is that so hard?
I told you it was cake! Anyway, so, which of these characters has the mental acuity, the dice-rolling finesse, and the sheer willpower and ruthlessness which is needed to win the game, nay, the way of life, which is Clue? Up until now, you've been fighting to determine the ultimate fate of mankind, but now you fight for something much more important and profound. Bragging rights. So Team Cthulhu went first in the main round. Team Wander, start us off in the lightning round.
Can I just say something real quick? I sincerely thought that Cthulhu was going to pull out a chessboard and Wanderer was going to be like, well, I don't want to play chess, I want to play poker. And then we were going to have to argue about which one was better.
Another time, a conversation for another time.
Yeah, maybe our final episode is going to be poker versus chess.
That would split this group apart. It would be too serious.
All right, Team Wander, go ahead.
Wait, so we're just talking about how we would win?
You guys are playing Clue. Play some
How do you
Clue.
play Clue? No, I can.
Oh, no!
That's Cthulhu.
That sucks, Colin.
Yeah, with
No. I got it.
candlestick.
Wait, the candlestick? Why would he use the lamest weapon?
Okay,
Because he can.
the obvious choice for Wander would be with a dagger, right? Yeah, well, that's not obvious anymore. What does Wander like to do? Wander likes to climb. So I think he would kill Cthulhu.
Do
With
you
one
know
of
how
his-
Clue is played?
Yes. No. I'm going somewhere with this. So
Okay.
not with the dagger. I think Wander would do it with one of Cthulhu's own tentacles, simulating the rope. Because let's say Cthulhu wasn't taking care of himself. You know, he's really let himself go. He ate too much at the dinner party at Clue.
Lots of body shaming this episode.
I know.
What's going on?
And
guys?
and one of his tentacles he's just forgotten to trim, or it just didn't fall off at the right time.
I will jump in whenever you're ready, Liz.
I'm going somewhere with this. And you know, I don't think the atrium is a room in Clue, but I'm gonna say it is in Cthulhu Clue. So in Cthulhu Clue, there's an atrium.
Clue?
And yeah, Cthulhu?
Cthulhu?
Cthulhu. Okay, so in Cthulhu, there's an atrium, and Cthulhu's in the atrium pondering life and being like, why can't I be as pretty as these plants? And Wander will drop from the ceiling with the rope, but won't actually kill him with the rope, and then he'll climb on Cthulhu, wrap one of his tentacles, and choke him out.
Just so you know,
And
Liz, in Clue there is a conservatory.
And you also
Okay.
aren't
Which you
trying
can
to
use.
kill the other player.
Yeah, that's not what Clue is.
No, you do you.
I don't know, Liz. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Okay.
She would murder the shit out of all of us.
shit!
She's the
Do you
most
know,
wait,
do you
wait,
know
wait
what
a
Clue
sec.
is? Liz?
Wander would not get caught. He would kill him, but then he
Nope,
wouldn't get
that's
caught.
That's not.
by who? Aggro? Who the fuck
I
else
think-
is here?
I think Elizabeth
The horse.
Dr. Lucky.
So,
Thank you guys for just letting me talk. That was great.
all right. So, what I was going to say.
Liz Logan, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so I think that from a lot of time climbing up of the architectural backs of various colossi, Wander is very good at finding the quickest path to a place, you know? So he could pick a nice efficient route to go through all the different rooms. By holding up the ancient sword and reflecting some sunlight, it will reveal the secret hidden passageways that you can take on the board between the different spots. Like, I think there's one in...
secret passages which are clearly marked on the board.
Yeah. He will raise his sword and
Sure.
it will unveil them. And then also, of course, he's going to have Agro standing behind Cthulhu, and he's going to be like, through a series of nods and like stomping his hooves, he'll be telling him what's in his hand.
Oh, that's very good.
I must have missed that part of the game.
That's very, very good.
They have a whole system worked out.
Oh my
Yeah. Is that a minigame?
Yeah.
In Shadow of the Colossus?
So stop.
if I
So
remember
so
correctly, Aggro doesn't listen all the time to Wander.
Agara!
Yeah.
so stomp 13 times if it's Mr. Green.
Yeah, exactly. And also, of course, you know, he has the disembodied voice of Dormin, who's like giving him advice as he's playing, you know.
Voices.
Yes.
All right, Team Cthulhu. What do you have to
Oh
say
my
about this
gosh.
nonsense?
I forgot how to play this. All I can really say is that playing it with two people is kind of lame. So Cthulhu's going to call some Star Spawn buddies and also Aggro. And I think...
Hang on, Cthulhu's going to call Agro?
Well, no, I mean, I assume Wander's going to let Aggro play.
Okay.
You know,
so
they can,
Agro's playing.
So they can cheat. Yeah, Aggro's going to play.
Mhm.
Well, they don't really Wander's already making that poor horse suffer by fucking making it fight monsters. What a terrible pet owner. But yeah, Aggro's going to play. And I think Aggro wins.
You guys are really dodging around the very premise of this setup.
Seeing as I seem to be the only person here who actually remembers how to play Clue, allow me to tell you how Cthulhu's going to win this game.
Please, someone.
First of all, the mechanic of Clue is based around hiding information from the other players. You know that it wasn't this room or this suspect or this weapon, but the other players don't know it wasn't that person, so they have to stumble around trying to figure out clues to acquire the information that you already know. Cthulhu, being telepathic, will not have that problem, and because he is still in a room with, like, air and not deep water separating himself and Wander, he'll be able to read Wander's mind like nothing. The other reason that Cthulhu is going to win at this game is that you're overlooking the reason that Cthulhu happens to have a copy of this game in his lair. And the reason is because the game Clue is actually based on real-life events, whereby some person in a mansion actually went crazy and killed somebody. With a variety of objects. Now, that person was the real-life version of Miss Scarlet, because obviously, scarlet, red, blood, you know what I mean. And she was, in fact, a disciple of Cthulhu. She was a deep one who, ended up committing the murder and never being caught. And after this happened, she was so proud of her feat that to rub it in everybody's faces, Cthulhu ordered her to create this game, Clue, to kind of like, immortalize the sequence of events that led about to the murder of this person. It was Mr. Body, and Mr. Body, of course, had gained a copy of the Necronomicon, and therefore knew too much, and had to die.
Wow.
So
I didn't know a deep one could pull off a slinky red dress like that. Man, I need to move to Innsmouth.
You know what? Some
mermaids.
things,
What
some
do you
things have been exaggerated over time, but if you've ever seen the film Dagon, you know that fish people can be sexy.
Facts about Clue and utter bullshit. Well done, Miles.
Thank you.
All right, one more question for both sides. We're going to start with Team Wander. Which character does your combatant play as? And if they are the murderer, which Liz seems to think is the case, where does the murder take place and with which weapon?
I already said everything. Cthulhu would be Mr. Green for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
In the atrium, and
Which does not exist.
The conservatory, Liz.
Because-
Just say the conservatory.
And because he's such a shitty character in the larger Smash Fiction games, he would have used a rope to commit himself because he didn't think one of his tentacles was good enough.
Okay, but who is Wander playing?
Wander is playing as a hidden secret piece. It was
Jeez.
he is playing as Bosley,
Bosley.
Oh God.
Very good.
the Tim Curry piece.
Yes.
So, Wander is playing as Professor Plum, because it's always professors who get killed, as a result of these Lovecraftian shenanigans. So, he's playing as Professor Plum, and he dies in the library with the knife, which he used on himself after he read a book that contained too much.
Cthulhu gets killed in the island with the boat.
If by killed you mean briefly discorporated for like a second, then yes.
All right, well, I would love to give my ruling on this, but I can see that a cabal of wizards has gathered to seal me away in a distant underground city, so I'm going to go wait dead and dreaming for a few millennia. I'll return when the stars are right, and the works of man shall tremble at my verdict.
Have Clue arguments ever been so fucked up?
Have Clue arguments ever existed?
How do you guys not remember Clue?
Okay. I just realized that my version of Clue would be kids playing a game where they try to be the best murderer and not get caught. Why did I think that? That is wrong.
Maybe you're confusing it with like Mafia or one of those other games.
Oh, Mafia's a good game. Yeah, maybe.
Dan actually should have done Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is like Clue,
Oh, that's
which is like Clue
amazing.
but spookier.
I love that
yes.
game. I love it when I'm the traitor.
I'm always the traitor. I don't know why.
I played it once
Just
and I was
like-
the traitor. I had a dragon and I tried to kill
I
Dan and then they killed me.
I stabbed my friends in the back.
For those listeners who are not familiar with the game, it's basically like the Cabin in the Woods game. You play
I mean, kind
you
of.
play a bunch of people who wander into this weird mansion and you're exploring it, and eventually something's going to happen and there's going to be some weird monster. Like maybe one of you is a werewolf, or maybe you like unleash a dragon or something, but it's a different
Nice.
scenario each time you play and you don't know what it's going to be until you get the thing.
It's really fun.
And yeah,
It's
some of
really
you end
fun.
up being traitors and have to fight other members of the party. It's like the best board game ever.
So, Colin, I know you said you had a bunch of shit you didn't get a chance to get to.
Yeah.
And I actually did too.
Go for it.
And I just wanted I wanted to take the opportunity to bring up one of my arguments that I was very sad that I didn't get the chance to make.
Yeah.
Because it's D&D related.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
God.
in every like monstrous manual or bestiary in D&D, like you always have the giant or the ogre, right? And then you have like the ogre mage or the giant shaman or the giant champion, and it's always fucking better.
Yeah.
So, as an ogre is to an ogre mage, so the colossi are to Cthulhu.
Yes.
But
That was
then,
a good
like,
argument.
even more.
Thank you.
One thing I want to talk about is we don't actually really know how intelligent the colossi are. They're like video game monsters. I mean, like I said, some of them are seen using like tools and stuff, and like, I don't know, but yeah.
I did
Well,
mention that Malice, Wander is in his palm and he doesn't squish
I don't
it.
think that's necessarily a sign of intelligence. That's more of like he's weirdly like not aggressive once you get close to him for some reason. Maybe he just like had a death wish or something. I don't really know what the deal was with him.
Yeah, or he's dumb.
Yeah, or he's dumb.
I mean, when I was doing research for this match, which was actually really interesting because we're dealing with two sets of source material in which everything is extremely vague.
Yes.
Which I found fascinating, and like which I had a lot of fun, as you heard with the opener, based on that stuff.
I was not expecting a Louisiana accent. I am sorry, everybody in Louisiana.
I am not. I'm not sorry, Swamp Hillbillies.
Wouldn't those be swamp billies?
Yeah, exactly. But because I was looking through gameplay videos for Shadow of the Colossus, because I've never played it, and
So fun.
Miles hasn't played a video game?
fun.
Shocking.
it looks fun.
Yeah.
So
But
good.
the first one I saw was, I believe he's fighting the third Colossus, who has like a giant sword and stuff like that, and he keeps swinging it down, and the guy keeps like dodging out of the way. And he swings and he dodges and he swings and he dodges, and finally he jumps up on the sword and runs up on the Colossus and like just kind of like climbs up him and finds the sigil and stabs it, hangs on while the Colossus shakes for a while, stabs it again, hangs on while the Colossus shakes for a while until it's dead. And I'm like, dude, this is fucking what the fuck?
It actually is.
This is lame ass shit.
Okay, so when you see someone playing it, like on YouTube videos, usually they've played it a ton of times and are really good at it. It's actually quite challenging.
Oh no,
and really
I'm sure
good,
it is.
yeah, but yeah.
And later on, I got to like the flying one and the electric eel one, and it was a little bit more interesting. But
And did you see? You saw any of the little ones too that are like the really aggressive, fast ones? Like,
I don't think I saw those.
Oh,
No.
yeah,
man.
there are some that are like basically as big as like maybe a minivan, and there's like a little like a bull or a lion, and they're crazy fast and aggressive.
Yeah, it's basically the best puzzle game ever.
Like I said, the more I researched about it, the more interesting I found the game.
Yeah.
But it definitely seems to me that the Colossi are, at least at first, pretty fucking dumb.
Some of them are, I mean, especially the early ones, are slower, but I think that like Cthulhu would be like among the harder ones, maybe even the hardest one, but like even the hardest Colossi in that, a good player can kill very quickly without much problem. That's why there's like a time attack mode where you can see how fast you can kill him, because I feel like Wander could handle quite a bit more than what he has to face in that game.
Well, I mean, if Cthulhu actually had a weak point, which, is a thing.
Wow, the argument's still going on, huh? Well, this was quite a match to have to judge. We've talked before about how a lot of times in these matches, the characters are so similar that you have to kind of argue, well, my magical sword is better than your magical sword.
Dresden Constantine.
Yeah, 100% Dresden Constantine.
My magical dick is better than your magical.
Yes, exactly. And obviously, that wasn't at all the case here.
Yeah.
This was very much a case of two very different characters who were really well suited to fighting each other, but like, it wasn't a matter of arguing who was stronger, because we know who's stronger. And I have to say, both sides did a really excellent job of both bringing up interesting and new points and also deflecting the new points that the other side was bringing up. So, it was like, well, Wander's going to climb Cthulhu. Nope, Cthulhu has slippery, scaly skin. Or like, the architecture of Relay will swallow up Wander. No, Wander's used to this sort of shifting architecture of like being on a giant colossus that's moving around and flying upside down. You guys were really doing a good job of countering all the points that were brought up. However, there was one very large point which was brought up very early on that I kept looking at to see if the other side would catch it and counter it. And it never happened. And that point was Cthulhu's ability to telepathically attack. And Team Wander never addressed that. I feel like I have to give it to Team Cthulhu. I liked Colin's point about how Cthulhu is basically like a creature who has the abilities of several different colossi, and that was actually a really strong point in your favor, because it sort of reminded me of like those 90s era fighting games where like the final boss always has all the powers of all the other people put together, and I was like, oh, Cthulhu would be a really good final boss for Shadow of the Colossus, because he's like every other Colossus just like put together.
Somebody make that game.
Yeah, no joke. But yeah, in the end, I couldn't think of a time when Wander is seen like being under direct telepathic assault in the way that Cthulhu seems to be able to do. It was not by a wide margin, but I think that Cthulhu wins that one.
It couldn't have been by a wide margin because I was terrified. I was fucking terrified.
I was confident.
I call BS.
I knew my Dreadlord would win for me.
You call shenanigans?
You can take it up to the Smash Fiction Appellate Court. Oh no, wait! There is none. Ha ha ha!
That's our next podcast.
Yeah.
Next year.
The whole world will be aflame in a Holocaust. But does it really matter? Does it really matter what anyone said on Twitter? Because we're all just gonna fucking die. Oh wait, except for all of our fans are so great, guys. Thank you so much, Raphael, for retweeting Hal versus GLaDOS.
Although that was a little
I
self-serving.
think I know why you did.
Thanks.
Also, at Mavo, I don't know if this is your last name. Sthe? I'm sorry. It's STHE, Mavo STHE. Thank you for retweeting the YouTube link for Mike and Sully versus Mulder and Scully. I guess you liked it. Thank you so much. And let's hop on over to Gmail because we got an amazing letter from Eugene. So Eugene asked us some more questions. And sure, if we have some time, let's do this.
Sure.
Dan, ever seen the ending to This Is the End? Parentheses, crap movie minus Rihanna and Michael Cera. Backstreet was back. Also, happy that I'm not alone with the 50-plus podcast feed syndrome.
I have never seen the beginning, the middle, or the end of This Is the End, so no. But glad to hear that they're back.
I think I heard
All right.
things about that one.
I have actually. I can vouch.
I
I've
like
seen
that.
It, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
and
it here.
I
It's
usually
good.
I usually don't like the Seth Rogen, James Franco brand of comedy, and that movie's really good.
Yeah.
That one was good.
And Backstreet is indeed back.
They are, yes.
He also asked me, he tells me, we share a love for the Green Brothers. Woo! Can't stop watching those crash courses on YouTube. If you like the history stuff, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast is insane. I will check that out. Thank you so
I've heard
much.
Hardcore History is
I
great,
have
but
not-
those
It's
episodes are like 4 hours long.
Oh, God.
If you like Dan Carlin, Hardcore History is really good. I have issues with him, but I appreciate his commitment to research.
Oh, all right then. Indeed, right? That's the shittiest part of this podcast sometimes. Colin, you have a Scyther? I bow and concede my foolish challenge, great Pokemon master. He says, please forgive my impudence, Sensei Sama. I don't think that's how it's referred to. By the way, you named a ton of podcasts that I haven't heard of and sound super nerdy, so thank you. And Digimon. Omnimon versus Optimus Prime versus Wing Gundam Zero versus Voltron versus Megazord. Please, I think we need to do that. I think we need.
Man.
Why haven't we done a mech fight yet? What's going on, guys?
It'll happen. We just had our first computer fight, so.
That's true. Liz, he says, take my money and make that Doom shirt. Or any Smash Mix swag.
Doom!
I really want to make that shirt, actually. Since you play a lot of League of Legends, do you ever watch Video Game Donkey's videos on the YouTube?
I don't really watch his stuff. The only person I watch, well, two people, Night Blue and I'm a Cutie Pie, because nothing is better than that sweet, sweet pie.
You like
Hopefully-
it? I like it.
Hopefully
Okay,
he
then.
understands those references.
Miles, thanks for introducing me to Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men and Escape Pod. Can never get enough.
No problem.
Yeah, can never get enough audio drama. Have you heard the Black Tapes and the Bright Sessions?
I have not. I have never heard of either of those things. I know they are podcasts, but I've never heard of or heard them. My podcasting life is about to be completely subsumed by all things football and fantasy football, because the season starts in like less than a month, so I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have to check out new things, but if I do, I will check those out. They look very interesting.
Presumably sometime in February.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
He also includes in some of the PSs that the production value of the latest Extraordinary League was out of this world. Please keep singing. Oh, God.
Very happy to hear that. I'll take that as a compliment to me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He also asks if we have a Patreon. So that's a few people now who have asked us if we have a Patreon. I think we need to get on that.
Tis.
Yes, we will.
We shall discuss this.
We will keep you updated on that, listeners.
Yes. Okay, so we were talking about the food fight, the elemental food fight. He asks, no defense for Italian food elemental? Meatball rollout would do compounding damage plus AoE savory exploding damage. This is very true.
Yeah, excellent points all around.
Sticking with bacon.
Thank you, Eugene. That was a great letter.
It's been a little while since we had any reviews on iTunes. I know that's a really good way for us to get kind of noticed by a wider audience. So if any of you listeners have a moment and you want to say something nice about us on iTunes, it would be really, really appreciated. We would, of course, read it on the show.
Look, guys, here's the deal. The less time we have to spend actually working
in
the real world for money, the more time we can spend coming up with amazing arguments on Smash Fiction.
True.
So if you want the podcast to grow, if you want a Patreon account, and if you want to actually support us in our endeavors, which would be awesome, and you're under no obligation to do so, but it would be awesome, then please leave a review and also send us money. That would be great.
We'll get to that. Maybe.
I'm just kidding.
They're just going to put like dollar bills in their mailbox and hope it gets to us.
Just like
please.
fiction on it.
Don't put cash in the mail, please.
The George Washington fairy will...
Does the George Washington fairy only collect wooden teeth?
Oh, man.
Very good. That's very good.
Deep thoughts.
With Jack
All right.
Handy.
Okay. Thank you for listening to Smash Fiction. Next week, we'll be having the 9th episode of our Extraordinary League actual play RPG. And then the week after that, our next match, Batgirl versus Spider-Gwen. Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo design by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
So, Dan, did you read Trail of Cthulhu?
I did not.
Oh, man.
I know.
I read parts of it. It was boring as fuck.
You read parts of it? Miles, I demand that you read all of it because you made me read all of it because it was relevant for this match. I have to go back and read all of it.
Okay, I promise I will.
Won't. It's really...
No, you're... I read the end, so I have no reason
all you need to read
like...
is the last 15 pages. That's the only time they're even close to Cthulhu.
No,
isn't
it's
that
really...
how it goes, though?
Yeah, I should have seen that coming. But,
Dude, it's just like fucking Derleth is like, I know what I'm gonna do to honor my friend who's dead. I'm gonna invent a fucking Mary Sue character who knows everything about all these creatures and has artifacts to protect himself from everything. And he just like knows more than anyone about all this stuff. And he's basically the Sherlock Holmes of Lovecraft.
and time and again, let me explain what's going on in this conflict with the gods in a very top-down fashion that explains everything and simplifies it to a ridiculous degree. Anyway.
And his name is Doggist Erleth.
Yes.
And constantly saying, oh yes, well, none of the scientists have ever come close to this. Of course, the one person who did come close to realizing these facts was one H.P. Lovecraft.
that super great horror writer who we all love, who is really great.
That